As I grew older and entered my teens, my now deceased father decided it was time to pass on to his son certain information. Here I was, 13 years old, and he would usher me into his study, lock the door, and begin reciting great bloody slabs from Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus, or the murder scene from Crime and Punishment, or whole chapters from Nabokov's Lolita. My father would wave his arms about, then point at me and say, "This, my boy, is literature." And I could tell by the way it empowered him that he felt he was passing on forbidden knowledge. Literature elevated him, tore him from normality, lifted him out of the mediocre, and brought him closer to the divine essence of things. I had no notion of that then, but I did see somewhere that art had the power to insulate me from the mundanity of the world, to protect me. So I set about writing some really bad poems. Cigarette, and I try to forget, but through my window that melody sails. A lone violin playing some fucking thing from Ireland or Scotland or Wales. Still your face come shining through. Still your face come shining through. It's a language of love that rises above all knowledge and science and art. It doesn't take much, just a whisper and a touch to thoroughly demolish a heart. Still your face come shining through. I mean, the song's called Still Your Face Comes Shining Through, and it's going to be a duet. I mean, I wrote the song for myself, but I asked Kylie to come down and sing it with me, and we did it at the Jazz Cafe in London, and it was really beautiful. She sang the chorus, which is the "Still Your Face Comes Shining Through" bit. Each verse, I guess, deals with the painful aspects of love. But the chorus, which is "Still Your Face Keeps Shining Through," despite the pain, your face comes shining through. You know, anything's bearable, endurable. I mean, there's some good verses. There's a good verse, I think. It's referring to a different person, actually. I look at you, and you look at me too. And deep in our hearts we know it. I heard it in the news, you weren't much of a muse, but then I weren't much of a poet. Still your face. So I like that verse, that would stay. But there was some kind of talk about recording it in some way, but I don't think in live the song stands as something where I'm just singing verses, she's singing choruses. But recorded, it needs some relief from that. So You know, some kind of middle eight will need what's called a middle eight, whatever a middle eight is supposed to be, but that's. After I matriculated, I went to art school, and it was there I began to be interested in religious art. Largely, I think, because it irritated my instructors, who thought I should be more concerned with contemporary art forms. I had pictures of Grunewald, Fra Angelico, El Greco, Tintoretto, and so on plastered around the walls of my workspace. And I found, almost to my surprise, that I recognized the biblical scenes depicted in these pictures, knew the key players and their stories. So I went out and bought myself a pocket Bible, the King James Version, opened it up at the first page and began to read it. We're in a place called Lizard. At the moment I'm doing a bit of recording in there to go on a kind of a benefit CD to get some money together to help preserve these gardens.
Hidden behind the curtain of her beautiful, beautiful black hair, as deep as ink and black, black as the deepest sea. The smell of her black hair upon my pillow. Where her head and all its black headed rays. Today she took a train to the west. Today she took a train to the west. Today she took a train to the west. Today she took a train to the west.
With the Boatman's Call, I have a place that I can go back to. I can actually play that record, I actually do play that record, to make me feel a particular way, to make me relive incidences in my life, to bring me closer to people that I've loved or that I've lost or whatever. Whereas the purpose of the Murder Ballads record or the purpose of earlier records isn't that I don't play them. They don't have any, they don't serve, they don't benefit me in any way. So really now, I guess, the way I write is to capture moments in my life and to keep them, to externalize them and to make them concrete. Yes. And to keep them. Or else everything just fades away. Iggy, Marco. Vivi. Which So it was the feeling I got from the Old Testament of a pitiful humanity suffering beneath a despotic God that began to leak into my lyric writing. As a consequence, my words blossomed with a nasty new energy. My band, which was called the Birthday Party, was all heavy, bludgeoning rhythms and revved up, whacked-out guitars, and all I had to do was walk on stage and open my mouth and let the curse of God roar through me. Floods and fire leapt out of my throat.
And make it a dead roll! Well, that's like a blood and a soldier and mother.
After a few years, the Birthday Party fell apart, and by this time I'd grown weary and my writing too, and it was an incredible struggle to squeeze out much at all. I was sick and I was disgusted, and my God was in a similar condition. It was hard work loathing everything all the time. All that sustained hatred was a painful and tiring business. I would climb onto stage and look down at the twisted faces that roared and shook their fists at me in the gloom, and all I felt was sick and sad. I decided it was high time I started reading a different book. So I closed the Old Testament and I opened up the New.
There in those 4 wonderful prose poems, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, I slowly reacquainted myself with the Jesus of my childhood, that eerie figure that moves through the Gospels, the man of sorrows. And it was through him that I was given a chance to redefine my relationship with the world. The voice that spoke through me now was
the passion, the resurrection, the crucifixion, all of these sorts of things are things that I feel are what we are concerned with as human beings. We are all crucified, and we resurrect, and we are crucified many times, and that's what life is really about, metaphorically.
I don't believe in an interventionist God. But I know, darling, that you do. But if I did, I would kneel down and ask him not to intervene when it came to you, or not to touch a hair in your head, leave you as you are. If he felt he had to direct you, then direct you into my arms, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms. And I don't believe in the existence of angels, but looking at you, I wonder if that's true. But if I did, I would summon them together and ask them to watch over you. Well, to burn a candle for you, to make bright and clear your path, and to walk like Christ in grace and love and guide you into my arms, into my arms.
Well, love is my major concern to write about, yeah. love, love, and love. You know, because it's something that to be in love is, you know, is the feeling that I've had, that I know, and it's the feeling I yearn for constantly, is to be thrown into that state of love. And it doesn't happen very often, but it is a state that you are in where you are thrown in, you are lifted above all the mundanity of life and into a place of inspiration and imagination, and to be in love exemplifies you from all the details of life. Suddenly nothing means anything. There's only one thing that means something, that is the object of your love. When you're in that particular pure state of love, I mean, everything becomes meaningless. It's great, you know.
But that only lasts as long as you're in love.
That's a problem.
Doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've never managed to get too far with it. She believes in God and everything. She's really great. I got another woman now. I got nothing left to feel. Yeah, I got another woman now, dear. I got another woman now, and in my darkest hour, she holds me and she says, shh, you've got another woman now. 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 See, some songs you write aren't even that good. These teacups are my pride and joy, and they make me very happy and make me very sad as well. Because I bought them because I met a girl, and she would make me cups of tea in the morning when I stayed at her house, and in these beautiful teacups. And so I bought a set of really nice teacups to make her cups of tea in, but never got a chance, you see. But you'll hear all about it on my next record. Still your face comes shining through. Still your face comes shining through. So I was trying to write some kind of dialogue that for the middle eight, which I did last night. But I don't know if this is all too kind of complicated a thought to actually put into this song, which in a way is quite simple. I put across my point of view, which is the romantic side of it. Remember when I kissed you and when sleep was upon you and your lips responded deep and divine. She puts forward her point of view. Then I awoke to the wreck of our age, and that veil of sense was drawn between your face and mine. Which, I don't know if this has happened to you, but I know this very well. In making love when you're half asleep is often very rewarding, because all of the bullshit and all of the horrendous stuff that keeps us apart as human beings doesn't exist, because you're half asleep. You're in a kind of twilight, and the veil of sense is hang on, this is what it's really like. And so, do you understand what I mean? So this was what I wanted to try and put into it, but I'm not really sure if I can. And you know, I need to make a melody up for that and so on.
You haven't got a melody yet?
No, I don't. I just sort of wrote those words last night, and I don't really know how to incorporate that. So I look at you, look at me too. Deep in our hearts we know it. And I've heard it on the news, you weren't much of a muse. But then I weren't much of a poet. Remember when I kissed you and sleep was upon you? Your lips, when I kissed you and sleep was upon you. Woke to the wreck. I'm hungry. Actually. Hi, it's Nick. Hi, can you send me some food? Do you have some risotto? Yeah. Baby, give me. But to me, love is a very sacred thing. And it's something that I long for and yearn for. And occasionally you feel like you're there again with somebody. And that's kind of young love. Where it's impossible to see fault in anybody. It's just it's something that is kind of blind and divine, sacred. Kiss its cold white envelope, address my lips to her name. 200 words, we live in hope. Sky hangs heavy with rain. Love letter, love letter. Go get her, go get her. Love letter, love letter. Go get her, go get her. Said something I did not mean to say. Said something I did not mean to say. Said something I did not mean to say. I came out the wrong way. Love letter, love letter. Go get her, go get her. Love letter, love letter. Go get her, go get her. I mean, what I want from love is to be comforted and to be looked after and to have someone to look after. And I feel that I can get that from God. But it takes a lot of, it takes the same kind of dedication that you have to put into a human affair. And I find that quite difficult to do. So I find that despite my beliefs, I slip into a kind of an attitude of non-belief, as if I'm behaving and acting in a way that I don't believe.
So do you
I mean,
feel
that like I feel like I believe in God, but then nothing in my world is actually. It doesn't make any difference one way or the other. How are you? Thank you.
Is your dinner, Mr. K?
Thanks very much. That's okay, I'll sort it out.
Yeah?
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Welcome.
I'll see you soon. Who needs God? Sweet. I felt you coming, girl, as you drew near. I knew you'd find me 'cause I longed you here. You're my destiny, is this how you'll appear? Wrapped in a coat with the tears in your eyes. Well, take that coat, babe, and throw it on the floor. Are you the one that I've been waiting for? Christ came to right the wrongs of his father. Christ, the man who abhorred the concept of a spiritual elite, spoke to every man. He came with the gift of language, of love, of imagination. My father, he was a school teacher. In a lot of ways, that was his primary role. He was probably a great teacher, but not perhaps the best father. I mean, we were close. But as I grew older, as I stopped wanting to be a student of his, when I started to have ideas of my own, then things became very complicated between me and my father. And so, like Jesus, there is the blood of my father in me. And it was from him that I inherited, among other things, a love of literature, of words. And just as Christ was to his father, I am a generation further on, and if you'll forgive me, Dad, in evolutionary terms, an advanced version. At some point, I started saying to my father, "Look at this, you know, look at this," and he would dismiss the things that I brought to him, and that's, I guess, where the trouble started, you know. And then he died when I was 19. He never really saw me amount to anything. I mean, what I was at 19, in his eyes, was a kind of a parent's fucking nightmare, you know. I was...
Were you?
You know, I was, yeah. I mean, I was kind of dressing up in women's clothing and, taking enormous amounts of drugs and, completely fucked up all the time and unable to communicate with them in any way. And, it was a nightmare. What my father always wanted to do was to write a book. And in that room where he used to take me and commune with me through the language of others, him giving and I receiving, was a desk that contained the beginnings of several aborted novels, all neatly, sadly filed and titled. In 1985, I went to live in Berlin, where I got it into my head to write a novel, and for the next 3 years, I locked myself away in a room in Kreuzberg and wrote it. I called it And the Ass Saw the Angel.
I need a volunteer to turn the page for me. Would you like to? What's your name? Drew. Thanks. It's called the Mercy Seat. I began to warm and chill to objects and their fields, ragged cup and a twisted mop, the face of Jesus in my soup, those sinister dinner deals, a meal trolley's wicked wheels, a hook bone arising from my food, all things good or ungood. The mercy seat is awaiting, and I think my head is burning. In a way I'm yearning to be done with all this measuring of truth. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And anyway I told the truth, and I'm not afraid to die. Interpret signs and catalog, a blackened tooth, a scarlet fog. The walls are bad, black bottom kind. They are the sick breath at my hind. They are the sick breath at my hind. They are the sick breath at my hind. They are the sick breath gathering at my hind. I hear stories from the chamber how Christ was born into a manger, and like some ragged stranger died upon the cross. And might I say it seems so fitting, in his way he was a carpenter by trade, or at least that's what I'm told.
It's only quite recently that I've discovered that that actually so much of my life has been dictated by the absence of my father. So much of the course of my life, and so much of what I've done in my life, so the writing of the book and the obsessive nature of things that happen in my life, and the way I can't stop working all the time, and all of this sort of stuff is about my father. Is absolutely about my father, and this was very much brought up by having Luke.
How old is he?
He's 6. And Luke has kind of chained me down to the world in some way, and I love that. I mean, that makes me feel really good. At the end of the day, I always have Luke, and it doesn't really matter. It's a great feeling. It doesn't matter what shit's gone on and what you've gone through and what people have been like, and at the end of the day, he's always there, and he loves me. He really loves me. I mean, I have no idea what Luke's going to be like. He really likes sport. He wants to be a sportsman when he grows up, And I mean, I don't know anything about sport. That's never interested me in any way whatsoever. So, he's going to perhaps come to me with things that interest him, like, football scores or something like that. And I can't afford to do is to say, oh, fuck, go and, I'm not interested in your fucking football, Here, let's talk about Jesus Christ type of thing. Or, let's talk about art,
I used to be in a band called The Birthday Party. It gets a hoot and a holler from about 10 people. Anyway, this is a song called Dead Joe. Oh ho ho ho, oh ho ho, oh ho ho ho, oh ho ho ho, oh ho ho ho, oh ho 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 ho. Dead Joe. Oh ho ho ho, oh ho ho ho, oh ho 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 ho. Dead Joe. It's Christmas time now, Joe. It's Christmas time now for you. And all the little bells are hanging two by two. The holly and the nativity. Oh, speak to me. 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 Oh, 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 oh. Dead Joe.
I think my standards have changed. I think things have changed dramatically for me in songwriting since The Boatman's Call and since the writing of The Boatman's Call. Songs serve a different purpose than they used to do. Songs, to me, used to, I guess, for a long time, the major purpose they served was to show the world that I was able to write, and that was, you know, that I was clever, that I could write, that I could rhyme, that I could do all these sorts of things. And I concentrated a lot on that, and you can feel that in a lot of you can feel that in my book. I mean, my book was a prime example of that. Was a determination to. It was a kind of juvenile. It was to show my critics that I was actually capable of doing things. Like, I could write a book. Fuck you, I can write a book. I know that people think that I can't, but I can. And I will show you that I can. And a lot of, and the book suffers, I think suffered because of that. And that really is a part of the process of growing up as an artist, or at least for me. It's the process of the journey of life, to free myself from youth, to free myself from being young, and I think I have. You know, it's taken me 40 years to stop being young, and I'm happy about that. I can just get on with my work. My work is to write songs and to write. You know.
People just ain't no good. I think that's well understood. You can see it everywhere you look. People just ain't no good. We were married under cherry trees. Under blossom we made our vows. All the blossoms come sailing down through the streets and through the playgrounds. The sun would stream on the sheets, woken by the morning bird. We'd buy the Sunday newspapers, never read a single word.
Kylie Minogue, who's here for the festival, has probably reinvented herself more times than Madonna. While she doesn't take her change of appearances too seriously, it did leave Tina Campbell not knowing what quite to expect at the airport this afternoon.
Kylie Minogue is back in Belfast, this time to take part in tonight's festival at Queen's, alongside her good friend Nick Cave. Fans of Nick Cave will be in for a special treat at tonight's Elmwood Hall concert, as he and Kylie will be singing something completely new.
Her voice is absolutely suited for this type of song. She can lend quite a haunting feel to the chorus. I mean, the work that I did with Kylie was certainly the most significant collaboration I've ever done. I think I got more and I learnt more from Kylie than I did from any outside collaborations.
There's a song I wrote. You finished? Yeah, press on, press on. This is a song that I wrote quite recently, and we're going to try this. I learned from you a thing or two about the fine art of peeling grapes. Down on the floor where I'd worship and adore you, up in your litter with your ivory and apes.
Still your face comes shining through. Still your face comes shining through.
I light a cigarette, I try to forget, but through my window that melody sails. A lone violin playing some fucking thing from Ireland or Scotland or Wales.
Still your face comes shining through. Still your face comes shining through.
I look at you, you look at me too, and deep in our hearts we know it. I read it in the news, you weren't much of a muse, but then I weren't much of a poet. Still your face comes shining through. There's a language of love that rises above.
As an artist, my responsibility as an artist is to turn up to the piano or to pick up my pen, and that's really where my responsibility lies. The rest is God's work, really. You know, I'm just the kind of faulty vessel that you know he has chosen to speak through, like any other artist or any person, you know. But I know what I'm doing is right, what I'm here for. Part of that is to take the baton from my father and from my mother as well, and to progress to make my family progress in some way. But you know, so I mean, so yeah, it's very much my duty. It's my duty to write and to create and do what I do. So if I spend extended periods of time denying this or creating circumstances in my life where it's difficult for me to write or to carry out my duty, I feel that I'm going against God in some way. God found life through my father as he raved and flailed about his study reciting his favourite literature, but died in the desk drawer that contained those pages, the first painful contractions of his stillborn dreams. My father asked me what I had done to assist humanity at 12 years old, and I could not answer. I now know. Like Christ, I too come in the name of my Father, to keep God alive.
Still your face shining through. Still your face shining through.
Thank you. That's all. Thanks very much. Good night.